Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. We have a big show today. We have a lot to talk about. We'll talk about Steph Curry and all sorts of things that he may or may not believe in. Talk about some things that Shaquille O'Neal.
It's ghosts.
Shaquille O'Neal had a comment about the current Warriors and about his Lakers. We'll get into that. We'll talk about the games, NBA roundup here in the last couple days. We have some games that happened last night, some interesting results, including what happened in Golden State, in Oakland at Oracle Arena with the Warriors last night. We'll also discuss, maybe the Eastern Conference should get a little bit more respect considering how good some of these teams really are. We'll get into that later on. We'll also talk about some notable matchups this weekend in college and in the NBA, so stick around for that. But let's get into it. Jeff, I will ask you.
Yes, ask me a question.
Does Steph Curry believe in dinosaurs?
I think he believes in. I don't know.
I think he does after last night because the Toronto Raptors, get it, Raptors? They came in to Oracle and they smacked the Golden State Warriors. Talk about a statement game. They didn't even have Kawhi Leonard, so they did all this without Kawhi. That game was over. Early on in the second half, the Warriors just did not have an answer. 113-93. Golden State getting beat by 20 at home. How shocked are you about that?
A little shocked, to be honest. I know that without Kawhi, I thought this game would maybe be in the favor of the Warriors, but man, Ibaka and Lowry really stepped up their game big time with multiple 20. They both had over 20 points. And Curry, Durant, Thompson. Durant had 30 points, granted, but everyone else just wasn't really there.
Yeah, Steph Curry.
They had their full lineup, too. That's incredible to me. They had their best lineup out there, and they couldn't get the job done.
Steph Curry and Klay Thompson had rough nights. Now, Durant did well, but Curry and Thompson combined 10 of 29 from the field and only 2 of 13 from three. When those guys aren't hitting threes, if they shoot that poorly, then
Thompson
the Warriors would have some problems.
No, Thompson was over 5. Curry only made 2 of his threes, and that's just unacceptable.
And the Warriors are a great team, but let's be honest, when 2 of their 3 main scorers aren't hitting shots, they're just not a very deep team. The Warriors, this is probably the least depth that they've had on their roster in some time. And it just shows in a game like this, if one of those or 2 of those guys get cold, they're looking at a rough night. And that's what we saw, 113-93. But no Kawhi. Man, Toronto is 23-7. What Nick Nurse has done with this team, I think it's bigger than just Kawhi Leonard. Do you agree with that? I think it's
Kawhi makes them even better than what they already are, and that was good.
But I think it's more than just swapping Kawhi, and DeRozan. Yeah, because you mentioned earlier too when we spoke before the show about Ibaka, how good he's been, right? Mm-hmm. What about Siakam? Siakam has been one of the revelations this year. He is arguably a candidate for most improved player. Some people have him in their top 3 right now. The guy does it all for this team. I know his numbers last night weren't overly impressive, but he really does fill up the stat sheet. He scores, he rebounds, he runs the floor. He's a really good defender. That guy is just an underrated, under-the-radar type of player that I feel like maybe a Nick Nurse, the coach of the Raptors, has gotten the best out of.
Yeah, and honestly, this team, I'm putting them right now, best team in the NBA right now. I don't think there's any argument.
Too. They have Monroe and Valanciunas off the bench. Like, that's really good depth. Like, those two guys could start on a lot of teams, and they're backups. They don't play that much for the Raptors because they're such a deep team. So, but even Van Vliet looks good on the Raptors. Man, everything is just going in a positive direction for Toronto. So they're 23-7. They are clearly ahead in the East. They're 23-7. Milwaukee's sitting at number 2 at 18-9. So get this. Milwaukee's only 2 losses behind them, but they're 5 wins behind them in the win column. So that's a little bit odd to see that big of a difference in games played. But Toronto, you'd say right now they're the best team in the NBA?
Yes. I don't think there's any argument there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would tend to agree with that. So, all right, let's move on. I mean, it was a great win for the Raptors, but it was one game. We did see Steph Curry let everybody know that he was just kidding about the fake moon landing. He had
supposedly.
He had a little fun with the media, it looks like. I thought that was pretty cool. But let's talk about somebody else in the media. Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq. The big diesel.
Aristotle.
The big cactus, as he was in Phoenix.
Shazam.
Do you think, well, let me get into it first. Shaq says that his 2000 Lakers could have beaten the currently constructed Warriors. Now, we're talking about one of the best Laker teams of all time. They went 15-1 in those playoffs. The only game they lost was to Allen Iverson's incredible performance in the finals, where they got one game. That was a step over Tron Lue incident. Well, the Lakers won the title then. Do you think that the Lakers in 2000 could beat the currently constructed Golden State Warriors?
I'll put it this way. No, I don't.
That's it? I'm going to put it this way. You made it sound like you're going to say something such more profound than no.
It was a reference to The Office, and I hate that. I'd explain it to you.
Yeah, okay. You know, Office references. Yeah, they're cool. So no? You think that's it?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, three-pointing is
three-pointing.
Three-pointers.
Is that like 3 fingers?
Sure. Three-pointers are what is winning championships right now, as well as, like, yeah, Shaquille O'Neal can probably dominate in the paint, but no one's going to be guarding both Curry, Durant, and Thompson. They don't have the star power to do that. Kobe's not a very good defender and all. He's a good defender, but he cannot compete with all 3 of those guys at once. And Shaq's not going to defend that perimeter. I mean, they're just going to have a field day on the 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's my thing, man. Why do these players do this? I feel like this happens in the NBA more than any other sport, too. Like, why do basketball fans... Why do they compare eras so much? Like, don't we understand that players get bigger, faster, stronger, they eat better, they are more fine-tuned today than they were 30 years ago?
More attractive? Wait, what?
I mean, if that's your opinion, that's your opinion. That's totally cool. But what do you think about that? Like, why does it seem like NBA people... NBA fans, why do they compare eras so much?
It's just one of those things where just like they make them like there's so many different dynasties. It's just one of those things where like we are so good we can beat any dynasty we want, or we're like, oh, the Warriors are so good we can beat the Bulls of the 90s and so on. There's always a comparison to what good team was back in the day, and it's always been like that and always will be.
I just think it's dumb. Like, we don't need to do that. Players can be great in their eras. Teams can be great in their eras, but like, stop trying to put a team in a different era. Like, the Lakers are great. The Warriors are great. The Lakers in 2000 was one of the best teams, one of the best Lakers teams of all time. Now, would they beat the Warriors? Heck no. Not today. Absolutely not. The way that the game is played, the less physicality of the game in terms of fouls and things like that. Yeah, Shaq would score. He would dominate a guy like Draymond Green. Absolutely. He would back him down. But guess what? 3 is more than 2. And when you hit 3s, you will win. And Kobe Bryant and the guys in L.A. are not out shooting Clay, Curry, and Durant, and even Draymond from 3. I'm sorry. That's not happening ever.
I think the key to this is the thing is, it's not being the best right now. It's being the best ever. That's the argument. Who's the best ever? And that argument will always happen. I think that's why people are like, to help their favorite teams are like, this is the best team in the history of the NBA. But in reality, we can never know what that is.
All you can do is argue about that team in that era. So, like, were the Lakers in 2000 better than the Warriors in 2017 or 2018? Now, that's an argument. But don't say, like, oh, yeah, my team 20. You sound like Al Bundy. You know who Al Bundy
yes,
is?
I do know.
You don't. You know, right? Like, what was it? His polk kai that he used to always talk about? Like
something weird like that.
You sound like the dude that goes to Applebee's who's like, man, when I was in high school, we won 2 state championships. You know?
I was, I could throw over those mountains.
Yeah, exactly.
I could have gone pro. Like, yeah, sure.
I could throw it over that there mountains.
I threw for 617,000 yards in one game.
That's just what it sounds like, honestly. I don't like it. I get it. It gets people talking, and I get it. You don't want people to forget about your team. Like, I know where Shaq's coming from. You don't want people to forget about you, forget about your team, what you did. But
do people talk about, like, I don't think Magic Johnson talks about the Showtime Lakers as much as, like, Jordan talks about the 90 Bulls. Like, they don't really talk about it, quite honestly.
And that's another thing,
other people talk about it for them. That's how good you know your team is, when other players and other fan bases talk about how good your dynasty was. You're not the ones that are talking.
What's funny to me, because we all know that Jordan versus LeBron is like the eternal debate, right, amongst basketball fans. Who's better, Jordan or LeBron?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, have an opinion, but like when I hear like, oh, LeBron, you know what I've heard before? I've heard people say LeBron couldn't play in the 90s.
What does that even mean?
It means that because the rules were different then, and he's like a flopper, quote unquote. But like people actually say
he's 6'8"
and like 265 pounds. People actually say that he couldn't dominate in the 90s when he was going to be playing against less athletic people.
Yeah,
are you kidding me?
He would have been even better than he is right now.
Yeah, he couldn't play in the 90s. Okay. Anyways.
6'8", 265, evolved pure muscle and athleticism against another small forward that's probably skinny.
Yeah, but did he win 6 out of 7? Yeah, but, the 1 year he didn't play, he played baseball, but then he came back, won 3 more. You know how these arguments go. But
again, it's a
was
different...
Jordan on a super team? Well, yeah, he was on a super team. He kind of had like maybe the best coach of all time, and maybe
Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, Dennis Rodman, Steve Kerr. I mean, this
Ron Harper, Bill Cartwright.
That team was stacked.
Yeah, but he didn't do it in free agency, so it's not a super team, quote unquote. So, anyways, it's
called just being good at drafting.
I'm not sitting here saying today that Jordan is not better than LeBron or vice versa. It's just the arguments that people make are stupid. And it's always an argument that's made out of context.
You've held this in for a long time, haven't you?
No, I haven't. These arguments are always made when you compare eras, because you start grasping at all these straws. You see what I'm saying here? Like, you start saying asinine things. Like, saying that as an asinine thing. Like, oh, LeBron couldn't survive in the 90s because they played more physical game. Yeah, because maybe the most athletic dude in NBA history couldn't play in an era previous to the one that he plays in. Yeah, good argument. Anyways, is there any other?
No, I think I let you let off some steam there. I think you're. Are you okay?
I liked how Curry just said yeah right to Shaq. He just told him yeah right. Like, we would dominate you, bro. And he's right. He's right. He's absolutely right.
Well, it's just based off of the different play styles.
Tyronn Lue would guard Steph Curry, by the way.
And step over him.
Tyronn Lue, good luck defending Steph Curry.
And you had trouble guarding Allen Iverson, arguably one of the best players of all time in his own right.
The crazy thing is, too, is that Klay Thompson is a very good two-way player. He would give Kobe some problems. He absolutely would. He would be a tough matchup.
And he's huge for a shooting guard.
And who's going to cover Durant? Rick Fox? Okay.
Who's going to cover Green?
Yeah.
And who's
Robert Horry?
Yeah. Oh, it's a wrap. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anyways, It's just one of those things. Basketball players do this all, or basketball fans do this all.
A lot of different fan bases do it all the time as well. It's not just
basketball. Though,
absolutely,
man.
it's more basketball.
I know football. I hear it too when you talk about NFL. Like people will say like Dan Marino or Tom Brady or Dan Marino or Joe Montana. It's like when you hear about Joe Montana versus Tom Brady. People are always like, "Well, Brady has a better stats. Montana never threw for over 30 touchdown passes in a year." Well, it's like, yeah, because they played in the 80s. They still ran the ball a lot more than they passed the ball.
It was acceptable in the 80s.
They also didn't score 37 points a game like current NFL offenses do. But anyways, moving on.
Yes, moving on.
I think we should take a quick break. And when we come back, actually, we'll talk about the games that happen, the rest of the NBA. We talked about just the Warriors and Raptors. Well, there's some other good action in the NBA, some statement games by some other teams. Franchise record performance by one team, and other news and notes. We'll do that when we return, but before, I need to talk to you guys a little bit about the holiday season. Now, the holiday season is always super stressful. The one thing I hate about the holidays is going shopping mall to mall, store to store. And the reason is there's so many people on the street. Everybody's doing the same thing as you, so there's traffic. And then you finally get to your location, you get the parking lot, and what happens? You got to wait for people to leave. You got to wait for a spot to open up, and it's stressful. But one thing that calms me down is listening to audiobooks, and you can do that with Audible. And there's no better place to listen than with Audible. Get your first audiobook free along with 2 selected Audible original titles and exclusive fitness programs when you start a 30-day trial. So take the time to listen on Audible. Visit audible.com/GSMC book. Or you can just text GSMC book to 500-500. Again, that's 500-500 to get started. Right now, for a limited time, you can get 3 months of Audible for just $6.95 a month. That's for fans of this GSMC podcast. That's more than half off the regular price. Go to audible.com/GSMC book. Again, GSMC book. Or you can text that code GSMC book to 500-500 to get started today.
What happens to your decision-making when you drink? Well, after one drink, you feel confident. A few more, and calling your ex at 1 a.m. seems like a great idea. And you're pretty sure the secret to a great taco is 4-day-old macaroni. The bottom line, drunk you doesn't make great decisions. So you're risking a DUI or worse if you count on him to get you home. Plan before you party. Get home safe. Brought to you by
Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. We just talked about Steph Curry, the Warriors, Shaquille O'Neal, and NBA fans that compare different eras. That's dumb. Don't do it. Anyways, let's move on. We had some other action that happened in the NBA last night, including the Portland Trailblazers, who continue their free fall. Man, this team was...
Free falling now. I'm free
You don't like when I sing songs, but you sing this song?
I never said I didn't like you singing songs.
Oh.
I don't know what you're getting at.
Memphis,
when you do bad references, then I get upset.
Memphis beats Portland 92-83. The Grizzlies improved to 16-11, but like I mentioned, the Portland Blazers, they were on top of this conference just a couple short weeks ago, but now they're looking at not being in the playoffs if it started today. Believe it or not, they would be out. They're 15-13, like I mentioned. I don't know what to make of the Blazers. Did they just start off very hot and this is who they are, or do you think that they're just in a slump and they're actually better than this?
Maybe we're seeing the real team now. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is a fluke and a funk at the same time. I don't think this is a funk. I think this is what they really are. They had a hot run. It's over, and I don't think they're going to bounce back to where they were before.
CJ McCollum had 40 points last night on 27 shots. That's a pretty good game. Lillard had an off night, 4 of 18 shooting. This team is just, I don't know. I had them as the 8th seed. I had them winning the 8th seed, winning that last playoff spot.
Maybe they won't even make the playoffs.
I mean, like I mentioned, as of today, they would be on the outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
But as for the Grizzlies, man, that's one of the teams that's been a surprise. I think some people are surprised to see them doing so well. 16-11, they currently sit in the 6th spot in the Western Conference. You have to be impressed with what they're doing, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's remarkable, really, because of how stacked that conference really is, and keeping up with the pace and making their own pace, really, and saying, hey, follow us, is remarkable.
And we've talked about their defensive prowess. They are the number 1 defense in the NBA. Or actually, they're number 2 behind Indiana. But they're the number 1 in the West by far. And
that's saying something for the West.
Yes. Denver is the next closest team. But, man, they're only giving up 102 points a game. And giving up only 102 points a game in 2018 is very good. That is tough to do. So, yeah, I like what the Grizzlies are doing. I think they can sustain this if they can keep everybody healthy because they play such good defense. I mean, we know in the NBA, yes, it's all about scoring, but it makes just having a little bit of defense so important, and they have that. So, moving on. The Indiana Pacers, Jeff, I don't know if you saw this, but they made a statement last night. They hosted Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks, and they gave them a nice wake-up call. 113-97 for the Pacers. And get this, with that win, the Pacers are sitting at 18-10, which is only 1 game worse than the Milwaukee Bucks, who are at 18.
Statement made.
5th straight win for the Pacers. Giannis had a tough night. He only had 7 shots, which was weird, 12 points. 10 rebounds, 7 assists. It's kind of weird to say a guy who almost has a triple-double, had a bad game, but he only took 7 shots. Are you surprised by that? He was he took the least amount of shots of any starter on the team, and he took the 6th most shots on his team.
Okay. Say that again? That didn't make much sense in theory.
He took the least amount of shots for all the starters on his team, and
all
the
the
6th most shots of the entire team. So
okay.
Of the starters, he shot the least amount, but there was a bench player that shot more than him.
Yeah. Okay. I got you.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think that's. I don't know if that resembles maybe how much they're really shooting the ball or moving the ball around, or is this like more of a just this is what's the pattern of how they've been playing. Like they've been having a very inconsistent play when it comes to their shooting and their percentages and all that stuff to me, but they're still winning games.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess whatever they do is working. So why stop? Why fix what ain't broke?
So Milwaukee was bad from 3. They were only 11 of 43, shot 25%. And then you look at Indiana, who was 12 of 30 at 40% from 3. But yeah, the Pacers. That Eastern Conference, man, and we'll talk about it a little bit more next segment, but the Eastern Conference right now, and when you look at it, Toronto, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Indiana, and Boston, they're all within 4.5 games right there, and that seems to be where there's a gap. After Boston, you see teams like Charlotte, Detroit, Orlando, a few wins behind, 3 games or more behind the Boston Celtics, but the top half of the East is looking pretty strong. Moving on. The Pelicans, they beat the Thunder last night. Another game that was a big win. Out west, we know how crazy it is. The Pelicans are currently outside of the playoffs as of today, but they're a team that needs to get on a roll, needs to stay afloat and make a push at some point in the season. They improved to 15-15, 118-114 over the Oklahoma City Thunder.
These scores this beginning of the season has been absolutely insane how high they've been.
Anthony Davis dropped 44 points, 18 rebounds, and 2 assists. Julius Randle, 22 points, 12 rebounds. Another game where
Julius Randle has been playing extremely well
He's another game where that front line has scored at least 55, 60 points. I mean, they did it back-to-back games.
90% of that was Davis.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, I've just been super impressed with Julius Randle recently. He was struggling in L.A., honestly, and he wasn't really finding his stride. But as soon as he got to the Pelicans, man, he found something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's been showing out. He's been showing Laker fans what they've been missing. I mean, obviously the Lakers needed to do that.
Is it coaching, do you think?
I mean, he was a good player with the Lakers. Like
but something's different. You feel something different here.
I think he's just given more responsibility on the Pelicans. Like, he has an opportunity to really play alongside Anthony Davis, who gets a lot of attention. When he was with the Lakers, Randall didn't have that guy next to him that could take a lot of attention. He was kind of the dominant scorer in the post. So I think it's just been good for him. I like that fit there.
He needs a 1-2 punch. He can't just be the only knockout blow.
OKC falls to 17-9. They are now third in the West, behind Golden State and the Denver Nuggets. Very tight. Only one game separates number 1 through number 5 in the West, which is crazy. Only 3 games separate.
Well, the thing is, that was just like it last year, was it not?
Only 3 games separate the Sacramento Kings from the Denver Nuggets, and that's 1 through 8.
Wow.
If you're looking at which is a big difference in the Eastern Conference.
Before the season started, if we said, the Kings and the Nuggets would be two of the most momentum-ridden teams in the NBA, and they're 3 games apart from first place and 8th place, would you believe me?
If what? Sorry, I didn't get the first part of that.
If the Kings and Nuggets had the most momentum right now in the quarter of the season.
Oh no, I mean I expected Denver to be really good, but not as good as they are, and of course the Kings are surprising everybody right now.
There were some people that said they would only win 15 games this year, and
some people we know very well.
Yeah, yes, we do, and now they've won already 15 games.
Mm-hmm.
And
as of today, they'd be in the playoffs if they started at this moment. They are in the middle of a tough stretch, and we are talking about the Sacramento, who set a franchise record last night for 3-pointers made, which is crazy to think about. It wasn't one of those early 2000 teams with Peja and Christie and Bibby and all them. No, it was Buddy Hield and Nemanja Bjelica and Yogi Ferrell and Justin Jackson and De'Aaron Fox. It was that Kings team that set a franchise record. But the Kings win 141-130. These scores sometimes. This was a regular
141.
This was a regular game. No.
This
overtime.
Isn't all-star game either.
No overtime here. This legitimately happened last night. Wiggins led the way for the T-Wolves with 25 points. Over on the Kings side, Bjelica had 25. He was 4 for 9 from 3. Buddy Hield was 5 of 8 from 3. He pitched in with 20 points. Bogdanovic had 20 off the bench, 2 of 5 from 3. Yogi Ferrell was 4 of 4 from 3. 16 minutes, 17.6 assists. That, my friends, is a nice little game off the bench. 17 and 6 in 16 minutes.
That over a point a minute.
And 6 assists. Jeez.
That's pretty productive.
So we got to talk about it a little bit. I mean, are the Kings for real? Are they a playoff contender, or do you think that they'll just kind of fall back into the bushes at some point?
Well, so many people have already said they would be back in the bushes by now, but they're not. They keep rallying back. They play at such a fast pace, it's hard to keep up with them. And it's great coaching, it's great teamwork, it's very unselfish ball. And, I don't see them getting higher than, the 5th seed, of course. But, I can see this Kings team as a playoff team.
Mm-hmm. It's possible. I am going to hold off. They have surprise. They do have a tough stretch. But you know what? They've already had the second hardest schedule in the NBA, and they're 15-12. So, yes, they have a tough stretch coming up. They play the Warriors tomorrow night, which will be I think that's a big game. I think that's a big game for Sacramento because the Warriors are coming off a loss, a big loss. Mm-hmm. So I think the Warriors will be hungry. It's a home game for Sacramento. If they beat the Warriors and improve to 4 games over 500, that could be a massive kind of a turning point for them, in their franchise. Not just for the season, but in their franchise.
If they beat the Warriors, I'll put them in as a real deal.
We will see. The Warriors, I expect them to come out guns a-blazing tomorrow. They're pissed. They just got whooped on national TV at home. I think that they'll come out and try and make a statement against the Kings. But, did you see Kevin Durant? He was very complimentary of the Sacramento Kings. Did you hear about that? On
yes,
the Bill
I did.
Simmons podcast.
And, of course, his agent in the background was a little annoying.
So, he said that he really enjoyed the way that Dave Yeager coaches, how he allows his team to play their strengths, and he was impressed by Yeager's ability to change on the fly his coaching philosophy, because he used to be a grit and grind kind of coach, and the Kings, as we know, are an up and down team that plays at a crazy pace, maybe the fastest pace in the NBA. And then he also had some nice things to say about De'Aaron Fox, about how he has superstar-like potential. Anyways, moving on. The Celtics, they are on a roll. They get another win last night. That's 7 in a row, Jeff. 130-125. Boston beats the Wizards. Is Boston back? Are they all the way back?
Is it? I guess they are like Slim Shady because he's back
I was gonna
again.
say Backstreet Boys,
Shady's back. Tell a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back?
All right.
Guess who's back? Guess who's back? I think we should take a break though, real quick.
Okay. Well, you didn't really answer the question, but
Well, I said they're back.
oh, okay.
I said Slim Shady. They're back. Yeah.
All right, the Celtics are back, everybody.
But do you know what's back? Books.
What's back?
Books are trying to make a reappearance in our world. I mean, they kind of went off the face of the earth a little bit, but now they're back. And you know what? Sometimes it's hard to read them. But honestly, I personally love when I get read to, just like as a kid. But this is a little different. Audible is maybe the thing for you. Right now, for a limited time, you get 3 months of Audible for just $6.95 a month. That's more than half off the regular price. Give yourself the gift of listening. And while you're at it, think about giving the gift of Audible to someone on your list. For more, go to audible.com/GSMC book or text the code GSMC book to 500-500. And with this code, you can get your first audiobook for free, along with 2 selected Audible original titles and an exclusive fitness program. Or exclusive programs. There's more than one. When you start a 30-day trial. So take the time to listen on Audible. Just visit audible.com/GSMC book or remember the code GSMC book and text it to 500-500. Once again, that's GSMC book and the text number is 500-500.
What happens to your decision-making when you drink? Well, after one drink, you feel confident. A few more, and calling your ex at 1 a.m. seems like a great idea. And you're pretty sure the secret to a great taco is 4-day-old macaroni. The bottom line, drunk you doesn't make great decisions. So you're risking a DUI or worse if you count on him to get you home. Plan before you party. Get home safe. Brought to you by Washington.
And welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. Segment 3. What's going on, everyone? Let's get back to the games that happened last night. The Nets, the Brooklyn Nets, they upset the 76ers 127-124. That was in Philadelphia. Are you surprised?
I think every team can beat any team at any given time in the NBA, especially when there's 82 games. So it doesn't surprise me they beat a better team than they are. Mm-hmm. But it's like when it comes down to it, if it's like playoff time and the Brooklyn Nets are in the playoffs, which is not going to happen, let's be real. Then
you never know in the East.
Yeah, this is true. But I just think that winning games, this kind of games in the NBA, are common when upsets happen like this. So I'm not going to say, wow, that's surprising. The Brooklyn Nets are a contender now.
Jimmy Butler was out too, so
yeah. There's always some things, like sometimes a player is off, and sometimes a player is on fire, and there's always a lot of different aspects of the game going through. And with this, I'm just going to say the Nets were the better team tonight, but overall, I'm thinking the 76ers are still the better team.
Mm-hmm. Did you see Michael Jordan smack Malik Monk in the back of the head?
A little mean, but it's Michael Jordan, so I'm going to let
Malik Monk started to celebrate a little premature. There was still 0.3 of a second left. They were winning by a point against Detroit as Jeremy Lamb hit a buzzer beater, but there was still some game time, albeit 0.3 of a second. But Michael Jordan smacked him in the back of the head as Malik Monk was celebrating a bit early. That's hilarious. I don't care who you are.
There was 0.3 of a second left. I'm sorry. He's allowed to be a little excited.
Yeah, I know, but the game wasn't over. You know, you can always get a tip in on the other end. But I just think it's funny. It says something about the competitive spirit of Michael Jordan. Yeah, even though he's not in the NBA anymore. And he said, you know, it's out of love. And it was funny. He smiled about it even afterwards. I don't know if Malik Monk smiled about it, but it was, I think
Malik Monk was a little embarrassed at the moment.
I think it was all in good fun. But it was quite interesting that he did that. Definitely one of those 30-second highlights that's fun to see on Twitter. If you haven't checked it out, go ahead and do that because I think you'll get a laugh out of it.
You know, I would be cool if Michael Jordan smacked me in the back of the head. I'd be like, it's Michael Jordan.
Speaking of laughs, the Cavaliers got a rare laugh last night, 113-106. They improved to 7-21, and guess what, New York? They're one game behind the Knicks. They're moving on up. How bad are the Knicks? We got to talk about that.
Bad. I mean, they've been bad. But they've been bad for so long.
Hazonia was bad last night. 1 field goal in 11 minutes.
You know, I'm so numb to the idea that they're bad. I've accepted it at this point.
Yeah. I like Colin Sexton, though. I think Colin Sexton has been a really good
Do you think he got made fun of with that last name?
Maybe. But how do you think how do you assess him so far this year?
I think he's been playing consistently well. Like, he's the one shining light in this darkness of this team, for sure.
Damn, that was like very deep right there. Thanks, one shining light in the darkness of this team.
Darkness imprison me, all that I see. Absolute
He's been
horror.
good, man. He's been a little bit of I thought he was a really good draft pick, to be honest. But, man, he's showing up. He's showing out, too. Rodney Hood had 23 for the Cavaliers. Him and Colin Sexton led the team in scoring. But Clarkson, man, Jordan Clarkson. I forgot about his off-the-bench performance. 28 points. That's a big game for the former Laker himself. So, the Hornets get a win. The Cavs get a win. The Jazz, speaking of laughs, we just talked about other laughs. The Jazz won a laugher last night, 111-84. That's a 26-point
blowout.
27-point blowout, yeah.
Good for them.
Utah's at 14-15, though. They're still underneath that 500 line. Donovan Mitchell, 21 points last night. What's it going to take for this Utah team to get over the hump?
You know, I think you just got to climb in, say yodel-hee-hoo, and...
It seems like teams have figured them out, and when I say figured them out, last year they were so good defensively, but teams are pulling Rudy Gobert out of the lane. He's such a good defender near the rim.
Mm-hmm.
He's such a good goalie back there, you know, as we like to say. He's just a crazy shot blocker. He makes a lot of defensive plays. Even when he's not blocking the ball, he alters a lot of shots. Yeah. But teams are pulling him out.
This team feels like it's not the same as it was last year, though. I feel like something changed.
Yeah, they're pulling him out of the lane and they're making him defend on the perimeter, and it's changing.
Mm-hmm.
It's changing the dynamic with that team. And we thought that they would be so good this year because of their defense last year. Their defense was one of the best in the league, but not this time, not this year, folks.
I think unfortunately, I think Utah Jazz have landed back to earth.
We'll see. We will see. They're right there, though. Maybe if they have a few games that they could put together, they could get back into the playoffs as it's currently configured. How about the Mavericks? We had a game last night between the Mavericks and the Hawks, and what I like to say is the look what you could have had game.
Look what you could have had game.
Yeah, because the Hawks drafted Luka Doncic, and then they traded him, and then they got Trae Young and another pick out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if you saw, but Luka Doncic swatted Trae Young. Trae Young tried to go to the
pretty
lane,
harshly,
and
too.
Yes.
It was violent.
Doncic had 24 points, 10 boards, 6 assists. He only took 14 shots and scored 24 points. Another big game, another consistent game for Doncic, another all-around game for Luka Doncic. So let me ask you, Jeff, in this incredibly early evaluation, are the Hawks regretting trading Luka Doncic for Trae Young and another first-round pick? I know it's early.
It's possibly.
If you're a fan of the Hawks, are you mad?
A little bit, because I think Doncic is a lot better than Trae Young, and I thought that as soon as the draft, before even the draft ended, or before the draft began, looking at them both playing college, or one in college, one in Europe, I would just think that Doncic was the better player, and I was right.
Yeah, no one could argue with that so far. I would agree with that. Luka has been, in my opinion, the Rookie of the Year so far. And Trae Young has struggled. He has struggled. So he's putting up numbers, though, because he gets a lot of opportunity, which is nice. They're letting him go out there and shoot as much as he wants. He shot 20 times last night, made 24 points. He had 10 assists, so he actually had a pretty decent game, all things considered. But he's a terrible defender, at least at this point in his career. He will need to change that. He's really going to need to change that part of his game. And Luka right now is one of the best all-around players in basketball. I can say that. I can honestly say that. Not just as a rookie. He's one of the best all-around basketball players.
That's a bold statement, sir.
He's almost averaging a triple-double. Like, he's getting so close so many nights. He plays defense. He rebounds. He saw him block shots. He scores. Efficient.
Yeah, actually, I do have to agree with you. He is playing at an efficient level.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's like a top 5 player or anything like that, but he's been playing as one of the best players in the league through the first quarter of the season.
His the level of play, I don't know why I say it like that. The level of play he has can be close to elite.
Absolutely. And he's 18 years old, 19 years old. I mean, you could just
see not fair. Better. Life just is not fair sometimes because I'm 5'8" and I'm 23 years old. This guy's 18 years old.
You're done growing.
Yeah, I know.
At least I've been done. Way. Maybe this way, but not.
I've been done growing for a long time, my friend.
Yeah, we all are. Oh, well. Yeah. Anyways, I got to ask you, Jeff.
What?
We always make fun of the Eastern Conference. We always say that, they're the other conference, right? The best players and the best teams play in the West. Is it time that we give the East a little bit more respect? Because we just kind of shoo them off, right? Like, oh, yeah, the best teams in the East are kind of like not the best teams in the league.
Honestly, the Raptors have something to say about that. And the Bucks do, and I think we're at a point where we gotta really think about this now. We gotta think about how good the East is.
So when I look at the Eastern Conference, the top 5 in the East match up almost identical with the top 5 in the West in terms of record. Toronto has 7 losses, Milwaukee 9, Philly, Indy, and Boston all have 10 losses. When you go to the West, 9 losses for Denver, 10 Golden State, 9 OKC, 10 and 10 for both LA teams. And recently, we've seen Milwaukee and Toronto dominate the Warriors. We've seen these Eastern Conference teams play well against the top of the Western Conference. Not just the mediocre part of the Western Conference, but these top-of-the-line Eastern Conference teams have really held their own against the top of the Western Conference. So that being said, knowing that, is the East that far behind, or is it just kind of the middle to bottom part of the East that's really bringing down the whole conference?
It might just be that bottom of the East, bottom mid-East. That's just...
There is a line right there when I say the bottom of the East, like after Boston, it goes Charlotte, Detroit, and Orlando, and all 3 of those teams are either 500 or Charlotte's a game above 500, Detroit's 500, Orlando's 3 games under 500. But those are your next 3 playoff teams.
Yeah.
But the top 5 is pretty good.
The top 5 is great. I'm not denying that, but I'm just saying the bottom is so bad that it really puts them in a bad light compared to the West. Because the West altogether is so stacked.
Mm-hmm. Indiana and Boston. Indiana has a 5-game winning streak. Boston a 7-game winning streak. Charlotte a 3-game winning streak. These teams, maybe it's not going to be so easy for Milwaukee and Toronto.
No, not at all. But I'm saying that, well, maybe the first round it might be pretty easy for the first 2 teams. Yeah, but after that, then it's going to be a little difficult. But again, like we said, like what, 6 to 8 in the playoffs would be so bad that it won't even matter.
I can agree with that. I mean, Charlotte is 6th. Maybe they'll be a team that can be, I don't know. But you're right. It's that 8th place team especially is going to probably be an under 500 team.
And it's not going to be like a little bit under 500. I feel like it's going to be a lot under 500.
It could be. I have a question for you. If I asked you who has the longest losing streak in the NBA right now, who would you say?
The Suns.
They do. Do you know
Yay!
games?
Like 10?
10 exactly.
Woo-hoo!
You win a prize.
What do I win?
A backhand.
Get away from me. No, stop hitting me. Ow, stop it. Stop. Ow!
This is like, what you sound like I don't know. Like this is a domestic violence abuse right here, and I don't think that's happening. I think you're making this up.
It's called acting.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's where we're at with the East. It just seems like the top half of the Eastern Conference, at least the top 8, is pretty strong. It's pretty strong compared to the West.
Oh, yeah. And it's just really, like, of course, the West is, we always call them superior, and we just talked about how it was. And when you look at how bad the Suns are, it just really, it makes honestly everyone else look bad. It's like that cousin no one really wants to talk about with that, like, it's like an alcoholic or something. Yeah, it's just like, oh, don't look at him. He's just kind of a weird dude. And he's just like, oh, who invited him? I didn't invite him. Did you invite him? I didn't invite him.
And then when you have like that significant other that you bring over to that family's house for the first time, and they're like, hey, who's that guy? And you're like, oh, that's just my cousin. Like, you don't really need to talk to him.
No one likes him. He's just here because we have to. That's the Suns.
Anyways, I think we should take a break and come back and then wrap this up with some exciting matchups that are happening this weekend in college and in the NBA.
Yes, we'll be right back right after this.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. So, the Suns owner has threatened the city of Phoenix. They might leave. They're talking about going to Seattle or Las Vegas. Jeff, your thoughts?
Well, I think it's just a threat at the moment. It's like, you don't give us a statement, I'll leave. But I don't know. If he does leave, I think it's going to be Vegas because I just think that's the bigger market at the moment. But I understand why he would go to Seattle because of the Nike because of Nike up there. And how much money they would get with Nike. And I could see Nike swoosh on a Supersonics jersey on the, like, you know, everyone has that logo. I could see that with the Sonics. But I think Phoenix is going to cave, though. I feel like they're going to cave in and build their new arena.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they'll stay, but I could see them going to Vegas just because Vegas is a hot city right now, no pun intended, but you know what I mean though. Like, they have a hockey team that's been doing very well. They're getting the Raiders to move there in basketball or in football, excuse me. So it would make sense that a basketball team would consider moving there. Now, we will see what happens for sure. But do you think that this is just some crazy play to get Kevin Durant to sign to the Suns this summer? I mean, think about it. Durant loves Seattle. He wants to bring basketball back to Seattle. That's like his passion. Like that's his
new chapter
project. That's his long-term project. Whether it's as a player, an owner, a coach, it doesn't matter. He wants basketball back in Seattle.
A towel boy.
Maybe the Suns owner's like, hey, if I just drop the Seattle name, maybe like I'll convince him to join my team.
So Durant hears Seattle, goes, I just want Seattle. Like a dog.
Crazier things have happened.
I mean, honestly, who knows where Durant's going to end up? It could be like he could even go to somewhere random, like, I don't know, Toronto next season. Who knows where he could end up?
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing. Durant is unpredictable. Maybe he's trying to lure him in. Maybe he's trying to sell the fact that he's trying to go to Seattle. But again, that move to Seattle, fortunately for them, they already have an arena there. So it's an easy maneuver to that. They don't have to wait for a new arena to be built. But again, that's an old arena. So he probably will ask for a new one if he wants to go to Seattle. And with Vegas, there's already a new arena. T-Mobile is not that old. It's pretty new, actually.
Yeah. In Vegas, T-Mobile Arena is in a great location, too.
Yeah,
It's
and
right in
you
the
see how
downtown.
successful the hockey team is, and the Raiders are going there with a brand new football stadium themselves. It's kind of where the place to be, honestly, if you're going to try to move. So there's like, do you want to wait for a new stadium to be built and play in an older stadium than you are now in Seattle, or do you want to play in a new stadium right now in Vegas?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting, though. I don't know. I'm not a fan of when franchises move, but I understand that it will happen again. It will continue to happen till we leave this great earth, So let's talk about some notable games that are coming up.
Okay.
Saturday in college basketball, Villanova, number 17.
Mm-hmm.
They play against number 1 Kansas. That should be a good game.
Yes.
But I think the marquee game of Saturday is this one, Jeff. Number 4 Gonzaga plays number 12 North Carolina. That is a nice early season matchup.
I like that matchup, actually. It's always nice.
Could be fun.
Yes.
We saw Gonzaga beat Duke. Maybe they'll beat North Carolina.
Yeah, there's definitely a possibility.
But let's switch it back to the NBA for a minute here. Friday, we have the Thunder at the Denver Nuggets. We have the Pacers at the 76ers and the Raptors at the Blazers. Which one of those three are you most interested in?
Honestly, I like the Raptors and the Blazers.
Really?
Yeah, because we kept saying, they might. I said they were kind of a fluke. This could be a fluke. But if they beat the Raptors, maybe I'm wrong.
You mean the Blazers?
Yeah. I said when they were doing bad before that was like, maybe,
gotcha.
yeah.
I like the Pacers and 76ers there, to be honest with you, because the Pacers have been on fire, and if Jimmy Butler plays for the Sixers, I want to see how that game goes. I'm interested in seeing 2 of the top 5 teams in the East. But the Thunder and Nuggets, man, that's 2 of the top 3 teams in the West. That could be a fun game, too. All right, so what about Saturday? Saturday, a couple of games in mind. Let me know which one you think is the best. The Celtics at the Pistons, the Rockets at the Grizzlies, the Clippers at the Thunder.
Clippers and Thunder I kind of like. I'm liking that.
The only problem is the Thunder on a second day of a back-to-back, and they have to travel. That's the only thing that dampers that matchup,
True. Very true.
However, what about Sunday? I'm going to tell you.
Sunday.
What if I told you that the top team in the West was playing the top team in the East? Would you go see that movie?
Movie?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, why not?
The Raptors play Denver at Denver. So the Nuggets will host Kawhi. We assume Kawhi will be back by then. That should be a really good, interesting matchup, right?
Yeah, it should.
All right. So, anything else you'd like to add today in the great world of basketball?
I think we're good.
All right. So that's what you have on the slate for this weekend. So check out those games. We'll be back Tuesday. We'll discuss the games over the weekend, plus all the latest news and notes across the basketball world, and that includes, of course, NBA and NCAA. So thanks again for your time. We will see you next
time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.